probably hold the record in the United States. How old was the child? 6.
One was 12, the other was 9.
9, okay. So, most people are terrified. How did you feel when you were going to go? Hated it.
Because the crux of your case is to make the jury believe that this child is a liar.
Okay.
It's a child.
All right, so the crux of the case is to believe the child's a liar. Okay, I'm going to say, how about yours?
I felt bad about it, but I thought about it from a parent's standpoint, that here's a child, which is what I convinced the jury of, here's a child that's trying to get back at a parent because of growing difficulties and conflict in school.
Okay. So you, in your case, you thought the child was lying, making up
Oh, I thought
something.
the child was absolutely telling the truth.
You thought the child was telling the truth.
I was just telling the state of mind I put myself in.
Okay. All right.
Well, I had a worse situation. I had a child 6 years old. Their dad, her mother, and sister came in to testify because they were also arrested by the same person. They were repressed murder cases.
Okay. Anyone else?
I had an expert, and I was arguing the child witness had been led, and the accusation was something that had been suggested to him by the parent. I called an expert to support it.
Okay. We're not going to do well here.
So I didn't argue that the kid was lying, but that they believe, they believe in the truth of the letter.
That they believed in the truth.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to have someone hold this at some point today, probably. But we don't need it for the moment. So mostly, how do you feel when you get a child molestation case on your desk? How do you feel, first of all, when you get like an armed robbery case on your desk? Yeah. Right? How about a snitch case? Yeah, we're really into that, right? And in a child molest case, we don't feel the same way, right? Even as criminal defense lawyers. In fact, if I had you all close your eyes and so that no one else could see you, and I said, feel like you're on a jury and the person is charged with child molesting and the government hasn't proved it, but you really know the person is guilty. How many of you would vote for an acquittal? How many of you, hi.
Hello.
How many of you would at least hesitate before you voted for an acquittal? How many of you would vote for an acquittal if you thought that the child was going to be a danger to your own child or your grandchild? And so that's part of the dynamic of what's going on, is that we're people. We're parents, we're sisters, we're brothers, we're aunts, we're uncles, some of us, old people here, are grandparents. And so what happens is we really view these cases differently. And that's the first thing that we have to acknowledge, is that not only do we view them differently, but other people view them differently. So that the juror, who might very well be willing to hold the government to its burden or believe an alternate theory of defense in an armed robbery case, in a drug case, may not feel that way in a case involving child sexual abuse. So it's very important that we acknowledge that. And one of the problems that happens is we think in terms of whether or not the child is lying. And that's a lot of what the testimony is. And for those of you who haven't seen this, or those of you who have, tell me if this is what the competency hearing or the beginning of the testimony looks like in your case. Hi, Liz, how are you? Oh, that's such a nice shirt. Look at that. I like that flower. Thank you. It's so cute. Yeah. Will you help me talk to these ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Can you tell me what color is this pen? Black. Black! Oh, that's so good! Here, I have a sticker for you. It says, well done. That's so good. Now, let me ask you something. Is that the truth that this is a black pen? Yes. What if I said this is a red pen? Would that be the truth? Yes. What would that be?
A lie.
That's good, that's so good, that's right, you got 100%. Okay, now, is it a good thing to tell the truth that this is a black pen?
Yes.
Yes, you're right. How about if you said it was a red pen? That would not, what would Mom say?
That's a lie.
It's a lie, and what, would she be happy or sad?
Sad.
And what would happen to you if you told a lie and said this was a red pen?
She'd be mad.
She'd be mad. What would she do?
She would yell.
She would yell. Would you be in timeout?
Yep.
Okay, now let me tell you something. The judge, he likes little girls who tell us the truth, okay? So will you tell the truth and make the judge happy?
Yes.
Okay, doesn't like it if you tell a lie. You won't do that, will you? And what about God? Do you go to church? Yes, does God like little girls who tell the truth? Yeah, right, very good. Yes, because you know what God likes. Way to go. Okay, and what will God think?
He'll be happy if I told the truth.
That's right, and what about if you don't tell the truth?
I'll go to hell.
Okay. Right. So, how many of you have seen a competency hearing that looks about like this, right? And what is it that the government says they've proven? That she knows the difference between the truth and a lie. And then we'll ask the final question, do you promise that I only tell the truth today? Okay, so she knows the difference between the truth and a lie. She promises to tell the truth. She knows there are consequences if she tells a lie. Okay? Is that all it takes in your jurisdiction? Yes, yes, yes. That's it, in mine. Okay? Now, here's the problem with that. The fact that a child knows the difference between black and red only means that she knows, okay? And what she means by a lie, and in fact what a lie is someone saying something they know to be incorrect, okay? So it's a knowledge and consciously choosing to say something that you know isn't right. So if I say, we're in classroom C, it's a lie. I was here yesterday, if you'd asked me, it wouldn't have been a lie, okay? Because I actually didn't know where I was. So it's not a lie if I say something that's not true. If you ask me directions to the hotel, I probably could not get you there. So the problem with children is that in addition to there being vast areas that they don't know, they can't distinguish between fantasy and reality. So what I'm going to suggest to you today, and this is going to be a workshop, you know, this is obviously, we can't go through theories of defense, you know, in cases of sexual abuse. We can't go through, you know, the sexual abuse accommodation syndrome or the repressed memory or suggestive questioning. There's lots of stuff. I mean, we could have a workshop all day and for the next 6 days on how to try sexual abuse cases involving small children. So today, and if any of you have them and need help, feel free to call me or email me and send me the police reports, and I'll try to do anything I can do to help you. But what I want to work on today, because we only have about 45 minutes, and for those of you who need to go to the 10 o'clock ones, I will probably go a few minutes after 10, but feel free to leave at 10 if you need to. I will not be offended. Those are real perils of cases and that sort of thing. Please go learn how to do them. But what I want to talk to you today about is just some techniques with the Crawford case. Everyone familiar with Crawford? Okay. So with the Crawford case in place, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best thing, and hard to believe we have Justice Scalia to thank for this. It's the best thing that has happened to us who try sexual molest cases ever. And the reason for that is it used to be if you could destroy Liz at the competency hearing, the prosecutor was actually happy, right? Because instead of Liz being here, her mother would be here saying, oh, Liz told me it was just been terrible, and she started wetting the bed again, and she fights with her little brother, and, you know, we have the mom talking, and then we have the social worker talking, saying, yes, she believed Mom and the school, or Liz, and the school nurse and everyone else. And all of that came in. There's the child molest exception to everything in every jurisdiction. You know, case law Isn't there, you know, like, it happened on or about 1980 through 2010. So from the time the child was conceived until she reached her 21st birthday, at some point, you know, try to do an alibi for that. On or about months, right? Is that allowed in your state? Because it is in ours. You know, the summer of 2008. So how are you going to prove your client wasn't there during the summer of 2008? So consequently, the competency hearing used to be a good way to get a feel for the child, but you usually, even if you won, you lost. Now, if you can show in the competency hearing that the child is not competent, I think you have a very good basis then for having the case dismissed, okay, because the child can't testify. And without being able to confront and cross-examine the child, the case should not move forward. But that's not to say all of your judges are going to say, oh yeah, the kid doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality, and therefore you win, okay? Because judges feel the same way all of the rest of the people do. Ew! He touched your pee-pee? That's disgusting, okay? And part of it is that there is not the same investigation. There's not the same skepticism on the part of police. Okay, we all talk about a rush to judgment in our cases, right? How many of you had that as a defense in some case or another? How many of you had the police didn't do everything that they should have done? Okay, in child molest cases, I think that it is even more of a problem. I had a case many years ago when I was still living in Arizona by Clarence Danny Trujillo, who's given me permission to talk about a case. One of the nicest men I've ever represented in my life. And he was charged with molesting two girls, the daughters of the woman that he was dating, a 14-year-old girl and a 5-year-old girl. And here was the evidence in the police report that the 10-year-old boy, who was the brother of these two siblings, do y'all have trailer houses where you live? They have trailers, okay. So that he heard his sister and my client, and they were in the bathroom of the trailer house, and he looked underneath the door, and he could see his sister in the bathtub. He could see her head on one end and her feet on the other, and my client was standing over her, and their clothes were on the floor in front, and his sister was crying. How many people hate Danny Trujillo? Okay, are you upset by this? Okay, what do you think was the problem?
That was the only evidence.
No, the 14-year-old girl talked about sex acts that I was a young lawyer. Really? Can you do that? I could try that. Okay, the 5-year-old girl, you know, said that he had raped her in the living room under the blanket while her mom was in the kitchen.
How can that police see all that stuff through the crack under the door?
Well, that's a really good question. Because I went out to that trailer house, which let me tell you, Apache Junction in Phoenix in the summertime, makes Georgia look pleasant. Okay? And you know what you can see if you looked underneath the door of the bathroom? It's about 6 inches of the floor. Okay? The bathtub was on the back wall of the bathroom, which was kind of, you know, very narrow. And the bathtub was about 5.5 feet long. The little girl was 4'11". Okay, so if her head was on one side, her feet couldn't have been up on the other. Because even if she was in a V with her butt on the bottom, she wasn't tall enough. Okay, and you couldn't see. So here was the cross-examination of the police officer from Glendale, Arizona. I said, Officer Smith, I'm not sure I remember his name at this point, do you remember when I came out to the police department to talk to you? And he said, yes, ma'am, I do. And I said, do you remember I asked you whether or not you would go and if you ever had looked underneath the bathroom door? Yes, ma'am. And had you done that? No. I said, did I ask you to go do that? And he said, yes, you did. And I said, did you tell me that you weren't allowed to do that unless the prosecutor asked you to do it? Yes. I said, has he asked you to do that so that ladies and gentlemen, the jury could know the truth in this case? No. I said, well, I guess we'll have to vote for him then. And then I said, and so then the judge got all pissed off because I had asked for a jury view, and he said that, you know, we would kill all the jurors if they had to go in the summer to Apache Junction and look underneath the trailer door. So he called us to the bench and he said to the prosecutor, you get that guy out there and he's testifying tomorrow. And so, but the reality was, and truthfully what happened in that case after Danny was eventually acquitted was that the police officer came up to me and he said, you know, never in my life have I felt like I arrested someone who was completely innocent. I could not have lived with myself around this conviction. Well, maybe next time you might want to look underneath the door or do whatever other investigation. But the fact is, and you know, obviously he was kind of an exceptional cop to admit that he had made a mistake, he was really shaken to the core. And the reality is that cops, when they hear white stuff came out of his pee-pee, you know, they have the same reaction, ew, God, that's disgusting! Or, you know, it must have happened, or else how would the child know, right? And that's what you hear in trial, that's what the prosecutors always say, you know, how would a 5-year-old kid know about white stuff coming out of the pee-pee unless, in fact, she was molested or he was molested? And I had another case, and it's the last war story I'm going to tell you, but just to tell you what happens in these kinds of cases, stories, by the way, but when I was in private practice, I was doing some contested custody cases, and that was the allegation. And so there was a parallel criminal track and family court track where from the dad, and luckily this client had tons of money. So not only, and was these molestations occurred, of course, on his visitation weekends. So literally this one weekend that he was going to have the child, we had a private investigator film him every second he was with the child, unbeknownst to the mom, so that we would have a witness who would say, you know, she was making this shit up. But this allegation then came that he had molested her and white stuff came out. We had the child interviewed by a psychologist, and again, you know, this is a guy who had a lot of money, I'm happy to say. And does anybody know what play therapy is like? Psychologists have, you know, a playroom, and, you know, Liz is brought in, and she can play with anything she wants, and there's usually a sand table, and colors, and Play-Doh, and dolls, and you all know that anatomically correct dolls are like the worst I've ever heard in many cases. In almost all jurisdictions now, you can file a motion that they've been completely discredited. They're not useful for anything, because any kid will put the two dolls together. They have a penis and a vagina, so. But just regular dolls, different nationalities, different genders and stuff. So the psychologist is talking to this child, and he says to her, now, you know, and she tells the story over and over and over, white stuff came out. He said, so white stuff came out. He said, what was that like? What was the white stuff like? No one had ever asked her that question, ever. So she said, I don't know. He said, well, go around the room and see if you can find something that's like the white stuff. So she wandered around. There's pictures of water and milk and juice. The kids can have snacks. There's all this stuff. So she walks all around the room, and she gets to the sand table. And it's that very fine white sand, if some of you have bought it for your kids. Put a cover on cats really like it too. You know? And so she got to the sand table, and she said, it looked like this. And he said, okay, what did it feel like? Like this. He said, okay, how much was there? So she took the bucket that was there, and she put 2 buckets full of sand onto the side of the table. And he said, is that what came out? Uh-huh. So we took a picture of that. and a videotape of her doing it and showed the judge it. And of course, Mom hadn't thought to teach her any more of the story. But white stuff came out, because that worked for everyone else. You know, the cops are like, oh my God, you know, that's terrible. And Mom, oh my God, you know, and the judge, oh my God, you know, because how else could she know? Well, the answer to how she could know is Mom taught her the story. And so that's what you are going to be doing, both in the competency hearing and in the trial, is to let the jurors know that children can learn stories. I mean, what you're not going to do is cross-examine on the story she's learned. So you say white stuff came out? You little liar! This will not work. Trust me, okay? She's learning her story, she's sticking with it, and the jury will kill you and then your client, okay? So cross-examining harshly, it will never, ever, ever, ever work with a preschooler or a young child, okay? So just take it out of your toolbox. So what will work? What you want to do is to demonstrate that she does what a lie is in terms of if she knows something and she says something that is inconsistent with that. So if she knows her colors, she will say that if you tell her that this pen is black, that it's true. And if you say that the pen is red, that it's a lie. What you need to demonstrate is that she will use those words for things that are incorrect, but either are not real or she doesn't know. Okay, so how do you do that? The first thing you do is, I got these stickers, and there are like 1,000 of them. You can buy them. I got them at Staples. I think they were 99 cents. The other place that is absolutely the best is find out where in your city is the teacher supply store. It's awesome. Okay? How many of you have kids? Okay. How many of them, are they preschoolers? Okay. Do you have anybody with
Yes.
grandchildren? Preschoolers. Okay. How old?
4.
4. He or she?
She
Does she go to preschool?
does.
Okay. So one of the things that you want to do is go to the preschool of where this kid goes. And you want to see, almost all preschools, does your daughter's preschool have the weather chart
Yes.
that says, today is,
Whatever day it is.
right. And so almost this is like comes as a set. And I don't know what we're going to, can you come be the easel?
Sure.
Okay, you be the easel over here. Can you still see? Because I want you to be able to see too. So almost every preschool has a chart that says today is yesterday was, and I promise not to say. Okay. Tomorrow. He's oh, I really do. Luckily, he was in one of my groups.
Now I have thick skin.
I know. I think, look, anybody who lets them put needles into his arms, this is nothing. Okay. So this set is in every preschool room I've ever been in or taught in, okay? Because one of the things that we want to teach 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds is the days of the week. So you want to start with something that looks very familiar to Liz. Liz, you go to the Crisis King preschool, don't you? Yeah, and I wonder, is Miss Sherry your teacher? Yeah, she's so nice, isn't she? Yeah. Now, I looked in your classroom, and there was a board that talked about what day it is of the week.
Yep.
Yeah, do you do that every morning?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I bet you're very good at it. Yeah. Do you know what today is?
Friday?
Oh, that's so good. Let me give you another sticker. Okay, because one of the things is that she may have been told that you're mean, okay? And the prosecutor is nice. How many of you have victim witness people with your kids that buy them candy, Skittles, ice cream? In Phoenix, they have a machine downstairs with soft ice cream. Did you get this? Yeah, that's my favorite too. So you want to out nice the prosecutor. Okay, so you want to have as many or more toys as the prosecutor, and you want to be just as cheerful. Okay, so so today is Friday. That's so good. Okay, so we're going to put it right up here that today is Friday. We're going to try not to stay. I'm going to use tape.
Book me now. It's only every year.
Again, it's okay. All right, so we're going to use today is Friday. Do you know what yesterday was? Thursday, excellent. Okay, so you're going to go through this. She may get this right, okay? So you're going to one, be judging. How many of you get to talk to the child before court? Okay, how many of you don't? Okay, so for those of you who don't, you need to have a baseline. So you want to make sure, okay, maybe she knows the days of the week, okay? So we're going to do that. All right, if she's 5, she may have learned the days of the week. She probably doesn't know Saturday. She doesn't go to school. But we can start with this, all right? Then we're going to get into something that she's probably not going to be able to do. Okay? Now, at the same store, there's going to be, really don't want some of this stuff on that. Okay, at the same store, and usually in the same packet, there are months of the year, okay? And they have little cutesy things, October, November, December. So you're going to do the same thing with her. Let's say that it's November. Have you been studying about the pilgrims?
Yes.
Yes, I saw your pilgrim hat on the wall that had your name on it. You did a really good job. And are you going to also do, was one of those feathers yours for the Indians?
Yes.
Do you know what month it is that happened? No. Okay, would it help you remember your teacher saying November?
Yes.
Yes, okay, this is November. All right, so you're going to be helping her, okay? And do you remember dressing up for Halloween?
Yes.
What were you?
I was a ghost.
A ghost. Ooh, were you scaring people?
I was.
You were. Did that happen before or after Thanksgiving?
Before.
Before. And what comes next? What's the next holiday, do you know? Most children of 5 and 6 have no idea what before and after means, okay? And they will answer the question, did you go to Grandpa's house before you went to the pool? And if someone is nodding, they will say yes. They will also say yes if you say, did you go to Grandpa's house after the pool? Okay? And why is that important? If you cross-examine, isn't it true that you told the officer it was before, and now you're saying after? Does impeachment by prior inconsistent statement work very well? And you said that he molested you in the bedroom, and now you're saying it was outside? Does anyone care where he molested her? No. So all of the things that work with grown-ups, with snitches, with police officers, do not work with children. Huh? Of course. This is my husband, Eric.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for loaning us your wife.
So those kinds of things do not work with the child. But what you can demonstrate the first time they make a mistake, okay? So let's say that she says that November is before October. So which comes first, Halloween or Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving, okay. So first comes Thanksgiving, okay, and you're going to put it up on the board. they keep bending, and they don't go in. At Staples, there's this thing called a display board that actually stands up and push pins work. You can buy a full pack of push pins for $1, they told me they had. Okay, so let's say now she says that Thanksgiving comes before Halloween, okay? So again, it's non-threatening, we're not hurting her, we're being kind, but the judge or jury knows that's wrong, right? Okay, we all know that in fact Halloween comes before Thanksgiving. So what you want to demonstrate though is that when she thinks that's the truth, that's what she'll say. And she will say it just as confidently as she said that the pen is black. And that her concept, we're talking about what is her concept or understanding of truth versus lie. So first there's Thanksgiving and then there's Halloween, right? Now, is that the truth?
Yes.
Oh, and did you tell the truth?
Yes.
That's right. Okay, here you go. Good work. Okay, now, what if I told you that Thanksgiving didn't come before Halloween? It came after. Would that be the truth or would that be a lie?
A lie.
Would that be a good thing? What would God do? He'd be mad. And how about Mommy?
She'd be mad.
And how about the judge?
He'd be really mad.
He'd be really mad. Okay, because also Mommy, God, and the judge will all, you can change them. Okay, God can put you in timeout. You know, the judge can put in. You have kids who say the judge will put me in jail. You know, and they say that's the truth. And so, did the prosecutor tell you that the judge would put you in jail? Okay, try that because almost all of them tell them that. Really, this is the judge's office. Okay, to tell a 5-year-old that they're going to put him in jail. Okay, now I'm not going to go through this because we don't have that much time. You can do this with numbers. Almost always a child will know his or her birthday. What is your birthday? November, okay? And do you know which day in November?
11th.
November 11th. Oh, Veterans Day. And so November 11th, she may know. It may have no, it's learned by rote. You know, my 4-year-old grandson can count to 27. But if you asked him, you know, to find 16 items, he would have no idea how to do it. Okay? Because we teach our kids, can you count to 10? 1, what comes next? 2, and you count to 10. It doesn't have any meaning. You can teach them to count to 10 in Spanish. Uno, dos, tres. You could teach them to count, you know, in German, eins, zwei, drei. They don't know that language. They're just learning by rote. You can teach them any language you want. When my kids took karate, they learned to count to 10 in I think, Korean. It could have been Japanese, for all I know. But it doesn't have any meaning. So what you want to do, again, is to test. So how old is your brother?
5.
5. So is he bigger than you or littler than you?
Little one.
Little. Okay. Because how old are you?
7.
7. Oh, you're a big girl. Okay? You can get them to talk about, and how old is Mom?
Old.
Oh, you think she's like 17? Yeah, that's pretty old, isn't it? Yeah. And now if I said that she was 36, would that be the truth?
No.
And she can guess the judge's age. Okay? No concept. She'll guess that the judge, do you think that the judge is me? Okay? And what you're demonstrating both to the judge and to the jury is a couple of things. One, she has no concept. And 2, if you say it with a smile and nod, she'll agree. Do you think that I'm you? Yeah, okay. Me too. I'm looking for that. And she will do it. The prosecutor's going to be objecting. I object, Your Honor. She's trying to confuse the witness. You're not confused, are you? No, okay, because you know, Is it true that I'm 22? Yes. Yes, okay, let me give you a sticker for that. Okay, I have 2 stickers. If I can be 22. Oh, thank you. Okay, so you're gonna, so do we get that? And you're always gonna go back to truth versus lie, okay? Because what you want to demonstrate is that she is going to say with equal certainty that the judge being 20, or, you know, November being ahead of October, or her sister or brother being older or younger, with the same degree of certainty. And what you want to make clear is, we're not talking about does she have that knowledge. What we're saying is that when she believes she is correct, that is what she considers the truth. She doesn't have a concept of I don't know, or I might be mistaken about it. If she believes it to be true, then that is the truth. Okay? Now, you need to then go to the next step, that she cannot tell the difference between fantasy and reality. Okay? So the next thing you want to talk about is that concept. Can you tell me, okay, you can actually sit down there for a minute because I'm going to need you again. But you don't have to. You can get some coffee, yeah. Or you can sit up there and I'll just call you back there. So the next thing you need to talk to her about is fantasy versus reality. You know, who brings presents on Christmas? Santa, that's right. What, do you remember what you got last year for Christmas? What?
A bike.
A bike, oh, awesome. Was it a trike or was it one with a 2-wheeler?
2 wheels.
Wow, do you need training wheels? Yeah. Do you think pretty soon you're going to be able to ride without training wheels? That's so good. You know what? I'm going to give you a sticker to take home too. And when you ride without training wheels, you tell Mommy to put them on you, okay?
Okay.
Okay, that would be so exciting. So I'm going to just keep talking to you about Santa Claus. Tell us, what does Santa Claus look like?
He's big.
He's big. What color is his suit?
Red.
Red, that's right. Now, if I told you that suit was green like your shirt, no. So would that be the truth or a lie?
A lie.
A lie, because what's the truth?
It's red.
That's right. So the truth is that Santa Claus has a red suit, right?
Yes.
And it would be a lie if you said he had a green suit.
Yeah.
Right? You know, depending on your jurisdiction, you might have to, what color is Santa's skin?
White.
White. Okay? So, you know, if you have a mall where there are black Santas, you might ask her about that. Because if she lives in Albany, New York, and if I said that Santa was black, what would you say? No. Would that be the truth or a lie?
A lie.
A lie. Because what color is Santa? White. White. Okay? So you might work with that depending on where you live and who's on your jury. Because that's her reality. So again, you want to tie that back into a truth versus a lie. So in her mind, Santa's white. Why? Mom told her that. That's what's in the Night Before Christmas book that she has. And that's who is at the mall in her city. Okay? So that's what she's learned. So then you want to continue. Now, who brings eggs? Easter.
The Easter bunny.
The Easter bunny, that's right. Does he bring chocolate sometimes too?
Yes.
That's my favorite. Now, I'm going to ask you a husband. What if I said that Santa brings the eggs at Easter? That's so right. Because who really brings them?
Easter.
Right. So if I said Santa brought them, would that be the truth or a lie?
A lie.
Okay, so you see, you go through this, and the reality is that she is absolutely convinced that the Easter bunny brings eggs. Okay, and that to her is as much of a truth as white stuff came out of his pee-pee, or today is Friday, so tomorrow will be Saturday, and yesterday was Thursday. Okay, so you need to keep coming back to that. So that's sort of that fantasy versus reality. Now, how many of you have like child abuse accommodation syndrome people who come in to say that if a child can add details, it means it must have happened. You have that problem in your jurisdictions? Okay, so here's how you demonstrate that of course a child can add details when she already knows. Now, I forgot. I know that Santa's suit is red. Can you tell me anything else about it?
It's got white too.
It's got white. Where's the white?
It's on the edges. Side.
Oh, the edges. Okay, anything else?
He's got belt.
A belt. And is that white? No. What color is the belt?
Black.
Black. Okay, so there you go. She's added details and she's corrected when I said, is that white? Okay, so if you believe the experts, that would mean that Santa is really real and it's happened to her. Okay, so you have to demonstrate that that's not true. She can add details. So we've got truth versus lie, fantasy versus reality. And now the next thing to sort of tie it together is you need to demonstrate that a child can learn a story, even a very young child, okay? Because there's this sort of concept, well, even if mom tried to tell her that or the nurse tried to tell her that, you know, she wouldn't be able to keep all of the pieces together, right? We hear that. So you want to demonstrate that, yes, even very young children can learn rather complicated stories, okay? So, okay, now I need my easel again. So again, for about $1 at the store, you can buy like storyboard stuff. So I have the 3 little pigs, I have the 3 bears, I have, let's see, yeah, here's where the pigs live. We have, oh, here are the 3 bears. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. Do you know the story of the 3 bears? Okay. And
The baby bear.
the little bitty baby bear? Is that what he looks like? Isn't he so cute? Let's put him up on the board, shall we? Huh? Here's the little bitty baby bear. Who's his mama?
Mama bear.
Mama bear, exactly right. Who's that?
Mama bear.
Mama bear. Okay. She has a pretty hat, doesn't she? Okay, here's Mama bear. And who else is in the bear family?
Papa bear.
Papa bear. Oh, you are so good. I think I need to give you another sticker. I may run out of stickers by the end of today because you are such a good big girl. There you go. It says, wow. Well, you know what? I love it. Let the prosecutor object. Can you tell me, what did Mr. Smith give you before? He usually gives M&Ms. Did he give M&Ms to you? Yeah, God, no. And Miss Debbie, is she going to take you down for ice cream? Did she tell you that if you are a good girl and told what she wants you to say, she'll give you ice cream? Yeah, yeah. And I can assure you, if there's a victim witness person, here's what you do, okay? You be the victim witness person. Elena's the victim witness person. Is that the person who brought you to court today? Did she tell you that if you look at her, if you have any trouble answering the questions, that she'll help you? She'll tell you what the right answer is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they will. And then when I was a prosecutor for a very time, I moved to the public defense, I said, you only know that because you worked in our office. Exactly. You know, so you position yourself in between the victim witness. And what happens too, this is what will always happen. You know, objection, you know, you're intimidating the witness. When Terry stands up in court, they say that. Okay? So this is the one benefit of being really short. I've been trying to be 5'8" for a very long time. It's not working on it. So it's really good with the witness. When you stand up, you say, you know, here you are at counsel table, right? And that's where they want to force you to stay so that she has a clear view of the victim witness person. So what it is, it seems like you're really far away. Would you like me to come closer?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start walking and you tell me where you'd like me to stand, okay?
Yeah.
There, that's a good place? Okay, that's great, because I'll be able to look at the board and I'll be able to see you. Okay, then they can't say you're intimidating the witness. And you can plant yourself so she can't see mom, she can't see the victim witness person, and she can't see the prosecutor who's trying to help her out, right? And then when they start objecting, you say, oh, I just asked Liz, I always like with children. Oh, you know what, my granddaughter has that shirt. You're not scared of me, are you? I'm a nice grandma.
Yeah.
There you go. You can be a nice mom, you can be a nice sister, nice aunt, there should be some benefits of being rich. Okay, so, but you want to make sure that you're in control, out nice them. So if they object, you say, did he give you some stickers?
Yeah.
They weren't as cool as mine, were they? No. Okay. That should shut them down. Okay, so now you want to talk about learning a story. Okay, now, if I told you that there was another thing, would that be the truth or would that be a lie?
A lot.
Because it's not the 4 little bears, is it? It's what?
3 of them.
The 3 bears, right? And there's
Papa bear,
and
mama bear,
and
baby bear.
little baby bear, right? Oh, that's so good. All right, now I want to talk to you about where the bears sit. Okay? Do you remember where Papa Bear sits?
In the big chair.
In the big chair. Okay, here are 3 chairs. I'm going to hold them up for you, and you tell me which one is Papa Bear's chair. You're right! That is so excellent. Okay, so we're going to put Papa Bear's chair by Papa Bear. Right? Because that's where he sits, isn't it? Okay, and we would go through this. Now, is it the truth or a lie that Papa Bear sits in a great big chair?
The truth.
The truth. What if I told you that Papa Bear sits in a little bitty baby chair?
That's a lie.
That's a lie, because where does Papa Bear really sit?
In the big chair.
In the big chair. And if I said to you, oh no, Papa Bear doesn't sit in a chair and he doesn't he sleeps on the floor.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. Because what's the truth? Where does Papa Bear sit?
In the big chair.
In the big chair. And where is Papa Bear's house?
In the woods.
In the woods. And if you went in the woods, what would you find?
Trees
Trees
and dirt.
and dirt. And would you find Papa Bear's house?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. How about the 3 red pigs? No. Who lives in the woods?
Bears.
Okay, and you can go on and on. And most children, how many of you have woods near you? Okay. How many of you think that they think that that's where Papa Bear lives? How many of you think your daughter is 4?
Yes.
Does she know what porridge is?
No.
No. Okay. But if you ask her what the bears eat, what will she tell you?
Porridge.
Porridge. Okay, so you can ask her, what's porridge? If you ask a 5-year-old, and how many of you, raise your hand again if you have children or grandchildren? Okay, raise your hand if you don't. Okay, find friends who have children. They will often, where do you live?
Portland.
Does anybody else live in Portland? Because most people who have children will give them to you for a very small fee, sometimes for free. Occasionally, they will pay you to have them. And will you would rent your daughter, right?
I've run around.
Yeah, and let people ask her whether or not she knows what porridge. Go home and ask her what porridge is, and then email us all her answer. Okay? They don't know that it's oatmeal or cream of wheat, or who knows? I mean, that's what I think it is, but I could be wrong. I've never made porridge for my children. But the thing is that you will be able to the judge or to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that she can learn a story. Just like you can learn white stuff came out and have no concept that it is not 2 buckets full of sand, you can learn, what do they eat? What do bears eat? Porridge. And what is porridge?
In a bowl.
It's in a bowl. That's what they'll tell you, because that's what the picture is. Okay? They have no idea what porridge is. I mean, why would you? Gruel. I remember asking my mother once what gruel was after reading, after seeing the movie of Oliver Twist. What's gruel? What is it? What do we think it is? I think it's porridge. I think it's oatmeal or something similar, whatever they had in England in the 1800s. But we all know, right? How many of us read Dickens? Know what Oliver Twist had in the morning? Gruel. Please, sir. So we've learned that story, even though we as adults, now if someone said to us, what is gruel? We would say, I think it's porridge. Is that the truth? I don't know. Okay, so that's what you need to make the judge or the jury understand, that as adults, if we didn't know, we would say, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't take a lie detector test on whether gruel is the same as porridge, is the same as oatmeal, because I actually have no idea. I have to do research on what they had for breakfast in England in the 1800s, but that's not what Liz or any other 5-year-old is going to do. So that's what you want to demonstrate. Okay, because, thank you very much. You've done an excellent job of being these up. Here you go.
Do you have another sticker?
Nice sticker. Yeah, I think you should go home on the plane with these. Okay, so I have stopped early so that we have some time for questions. And then I know some of you are going to go to a 10 o'clock workshop. I can stay for another 10 minutes or so after that, if people have more questions. Yes?
Years ago when I was with Terrence McCarthy, senior seminar, women cross-examination, I got the habit of, Terrence knows his head, yes, yes,
Right,
yes.
right.
And I noticed you were doing it a lot for this particular
Yes.
witness. My question is, when you're trying these cases and you're doing the suggestive
Right.
counting, do you get a lot of objections on that?
What you find, and what's great about it, is the prosecutor has done it.
Yeah.
Okay, and what you want to demonstrate to the jury is that the child will in fact answer when you say yes. And particularly if they haven't videotaped, if they videotaped it, you can show that's what they do. Or they give out skills. I am absolutely convinced, you give me a package of skills, I can get a 5-year-old to accuse any one of you. It's true, because 5-year-olds want to please. I don't think any of you were in the group with me, but, and I can't remember why we were talking about this, but they did a study one time of children who've been hit by cars, and you know how all of you who have children, this is particularly for you because you need to protect your daughter. Everybody who has kids says to the kids, now don't cross the street, look both ways before you cross the street, right? How many of you remember hearing that as children? Look both ways before you cross the street. Okay, and that's how it's told to you, right? Okay, what they did a study of was that when they interviewed the children in the hospital, those who were still alive, and said, why didn't you look both ways? They had looked both ways. But we as adults, when we say look both ways before you cross the street, mean, and don't go into the street if you see a car. But what they found with the children is they thought it was like a charm. Like if you look both ways, then you wouldn't get hit by a car. And they had no concept because their frame of reference, they don't know that if the car is as far away as a second and they walk out, they would get hit. They just thought it's like, don't eat cookies before dinner. And what we mean as adults is, don't eat cookies before dinner, because if we ate a cookie, it would spoil our dinner, and also we want you to learn that you eat fruits and vegetables first and sweets later. But for a child, it's just, oh, that's one of those silly rules mom makes. But you get in trouble if you eat cookies before dinner, and you get not in trouble if you don't. So, okay. Adults have all sorts of bizarre rules for children. You know, you have to line up, you have to wash your hands after you pee, you know, I mean, and you learn all of these rules, but, I mean, you don't say to your child, you have to wash your hands after you go to the bathroom, honey, because, you know, there's germs, and if you have germs on your hands, you know, you could get a disease. And let me explain bacterial infections to you. You say, we always wash our hands after we go to the bathroom. Here, let me help you. You have a little step stool. Does your daughter have a cute little step stool that has her name on it? Of course she does. Well, she doesn't have her name on it. Okay, what a slacker. By next session, we expect this to happen, you know?
Well, I
Yes.
have questions for you about the play therapy that you got this alleged victim to do. How did you do that?
We had a psychologist, and we didn't do it for that. My senior partner, I was a young associate in a law firm, and my senior partner had the case as a custody case, and then when it was going to be a criminal case, I got brought in. And he had a psychologist, there was a child psychologist who did evaluations in custody cases. And so we had hired him to interview the child, you know, how do you like mommy, how do you like daddy, what do you do with dad? Have any of you do custody cases? It's good, you've never wanted to. So, but what they do is they do these evaluations, you know, what does daddy say about mommy, what does mommy say about daddy, what fun things do you do at daddy's house? If you get in trouble at daddy's house, what happens to you if you get in trouble at mommy's house? So that was what it was about.
So that was already in the process?
That was in the
criminal-
process. He was
okay.
being videotaped because this mother just kept making these bizarre allegations. And the father kept saying to us, I don't do anything. And we said, are you willing to be videotaped 24 hours a day? And he's, you know, when you have your kid. And will you pay for it? And he said, yes. And we said, can you pay for a psychologist to interview your daughter? So it was already set up. And the day that she was supposed to go to the psychologist, this allegation had happened the day before, so we called the psychologist.
So it was
and said,
before she filed like temporary emergency custody?
yeah, she had filed temporary
Okay.
emergency, but the psychologist appointment was set up and she was ordered to bring the child. So we called the psychologist and said, I still remember his name, Joel. I said, Joel, now this is what's happening. This guy's gonna get charged. And in Arizona, it was like a mandatory 100-year sentence. So he brought the kid in, and it's videotaped. This play therapy room is videotaped. And so he starts to ask the girl. And so we have her on videotape saying this pile of sand is what came out of her father's penis. So we won custody and he wasn't charged. Yes, I think you have a question in the background.
I just had, and I don't really know how you would even go about answering this, but when you're going through all these things about the 3 little bears and things like that, I'm just trying to think about a lot of the kids that I'm thinking about. I don't even think a lot of these kids, like even older than that, would know 3 little bears because nobody in their family is literate. Nobody's sitting down and reading stories.
So you want
The
to,
background's so chaotic that I just
do
don't
they
think
go
people-
to preschool at all or Head Start or
I mean, a
anything
lot
like
of
that?
they're bouncing around so much, it's kind of unclear
Okay.
where they go.
Well, that may be a demonstration then of, you know, that they just are not able to put it together. You might even just start with them then with numbers. You know, can they count? Do they know the alphabet? And to describe that children don't know before and after, even if they can count to 5, and you say to them, okay, that was so good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, thanks so much. Now I want to just think about number 4. What comes before 4? They may not be able to tell you. What comes after 4? And because what you want to demonstrate is that when they say, this happened before this, or this happened after, and typically they don't use those terms. It's the police officer or the cop, or the Child Protective Services workers who will say, you know, now honey, you said that you were in the swimming pool. Now, was that before lunch? If the police officer is nodding, or if someone is giving the child Skittles, and here's what happens at the daycare center cases. What's your name?
Ethan.
Ethan. Now, Ethan, Liz was a good, brave girl, and she got lots of Mr. John. Now, you told me that nothing happened. Do you think you can be a brave boy, just like Liz is a brave girl? I have some more candy. And that's really what happens. You know, and finally they go, okay, well, you know, I'll say what Liz said. She got candy, she got stickers. And that's how you get 4 more victims have come forward. Well, they haven't come forward. Their moms have called and said, oh my God, I said to him that Liz is, you know, was touched, and did Mr. John touch him too? And he said no first. But then when the police officer talked to him, he said yes. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, if we brought in a room full of 4-year-olds, we could, and I mean, you can read the studies. It's terrifying. You know, children who are made to believe that they were molested at a doctor's appointment. That's videotaped. You know, they go out and, you know, now do you remember when Dr. Jones touched your private part? You know, they did a throat exam. And they have it all on videotape. And the kid says, it's the truth. I mean, really, once you do these cases for a while, you're terrified to be alone with any child, ever. Yes.
And how do you feel about asking for lawyers to be included for the child?
In New York, they're appointed as a matter of course in family court. I generally feel not that great about it because, at least in our jurisdiction, there are some incredibly competent lawyers who are in family court, and there are also the worst lawyers in America. And some of them, it's like child protective services workers. I find them to be some of the scariest people. I think that most of them are 22-year-old girls who either have no idea, like, what's your name?
Meg.
Like Meg was talking about, they have no idea of chaotic homes, no reading, no books, no interaction between the children. They just can't conceive that everybody wasn't raised the way they were. Or they're kids who weren't believed about something, and by God, they're going to believe it. And I remember when I was a young prosecutor, and I was the only woman, so therefore I had to try child molest cases, because somehow I would understand it. I was 24 and single, but hey, you know, of course I could know how to talk to a child. And what I found was, and I was taught that children don't make up allegations, that if they say that something happened, that it must be true, except when they're recanting, in which case that also means it's true. And that's one of the charts that, you know, you can do. You're talking about cross-examination of the child protective services workers. So I just want to get this straight. So if Debbie, you know, if Liz says it happened, then it happened, right? You're the child protective services worker.
Yeah.
And if she says it didn't happen, then that's also evidence that it happened.
Yeah.
So if she says it happened, it happened. And if she says it didn't happen, it happened. Can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if it never happened, what is it Liz could say?
She wouldn't have said it happened to begin with.
So there's nothing she could say now. No matter what she says, we have to believe it out. Okay, thanks. Right. I mean, and you just show, it's just silly. And you do the same thing, you know, Liz is now wet in the bed again. You know, you put up a chart, you know, what do 4-year-olds do? They wet the bed. You know, if they're molested, they wet the bed. If they don't, if they're not molested, they wet the bed. If they're molested, they're mean to their little brother if they're not molested. So, you know, you need to demonstrate that too. But that's why I find it scary. If you have a good lawyer for the child, it's great. But if you have a bad lawyer for the child, one, they can do really suggestive questions, and they prepare the kid for testifying. You know, don't be afraid, Lizzie. It's okay. I'm going to be right there for you. Let's practice. What happened? You know, and they may go over the story 50 times. So it's really scary.
I'm just visualizing going into the school or the preschool, because now you always have to stop at the office and you have to get your little label and you
Yeah.
tell them why you're there. I mean, you just tell them, well, I'm just, you know,
I'm
I'm
looking
doing
at,
this for my client. I mean, what do
you know what?
What do you
Try
say?
to make something that's not a complete lie, so that you're not, so, you know what? Do you have a grandchild? Do you have a niece? Do you have a nephew? Do you have neighbors who have one?
I need something.
You can find a child. I'm just thinking about recommending your preschool to one of my friends. And I'd like to have a tour. You know, I'm going to have a grandchild. Do you have children?
I do.
Okay, how old are they?
Well, old enough to have a grandchild.
Okay,
but not
so,
in
well,
my
there you
area.
go. I'm looking at this to see whether or not it would be appropriate for my grandchild. You
I live in
didn't
a
say
really
you
small
had,
town.
you didn't say that you had one born, oh, you live in a small town.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Or
I
you
get away
can
with
say,
it.
you know, I'm just looking, I'm curious as to what goes on in preschools now. It's been a long time since my kids were in one. You know, my daughter's thinking about doing Teach for America. I mean, make up something that if you're under oath, you know, or on 60 Minutes, you won't. I mean, if it's a competent place, they shouldn't mind. I mean, you should be able to go in and say, you know, I have a case with a child who's here, and I'm just curious. And you can say truthfully, I want to make sure that I ask her about things that aren't going to make her feel uncomfortable. And so I would like to see, like, what's up. Because you want to let the child know that you know her world. So if it's February and, you know, Abraham Lincoln is up there, or it's January and Martin Luther King Jr. is up there, or it's, you know, December and they have, you know, the little Hanukkah thing surrounded by Christmas. Well, I was one Jewish kid growing up in my town. You know, you'll be able to say that. You know, oh, you're in Miss Sherry's room. Oh, Miss Amy is so nice. And I saw that you did a beautiful turkey, you know, or feathers, or leaves on the trees, or, you know, whatever it was. I mean, they shouldn't mind showing you this. You're not going to ask to go there when she's there, if that's not allowed in, you know, in your jurisdiction. Yes. Oh, I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, do you have any materials or motions or anything that
I
you
have,
want to share? Because we would never be allowed to do this.
Why not?
Because, first of all, they don't, as a matter of course, do competency hearings for child witnesses. And so we have to move for that, for
Uh-huh.
child. And
Where
they're
do you practice?
New Orleans.
Okay.
And they would just, it would be very limited. Like, it would be hard to convince them to be able to go into all of this. And so I just want to be able to back it up,
Okay.
mostly for appeal, because they still won't, even
Right,
whatever I
Right,
do.
so I
don't have
would
to-
file a motion for competency hearing because I would do it under Crawford.
Yeah.
You know, and there are cases under Crawford that talk about child witnesses and say that this is a Sixth Amendment right to confrontation and that it's a meaningless right if the child is not competent. And at the very least, the child needs to be able to know the difference between a truth and a lie, and that's what you're going for. And all of you should argue that this goes to a truth and a lie. Because if they can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality, I mean, if I come in and I truthfully believe, and I talk about it similarly to what if a crazy person, you know, what if someone who was bipolar came in? You know, if someone got on the witness stand and said, you know, Jesus is talking to me through the fillings on my teeth. You know, and I know this and it's being beamed in from Venus. Is that the truth? Absolutely. You know, what would happen to you? Well, it would be perjury if I said that they weren't beaming in. Well, the judge wouldn't say, okay, he says it's the truth, and then no matter how ridiculous the statement is, he gets to testify, right? I mean, you must have minimal competency standards in Louisiana. So you build from that and say, you know, that's what I'm trying to demonstrate. Trying to demonstrate that what the child is saying is not grounded in reality, and therefore she's incompetent to testify. So that's what you want to argue.
Any advice for dealing with older kids?
With older kids, you need to find out what is their motivation to testify. They probably are lying. So in the Danny Trujillo case, the 14-year-old girl was lying. She actually had been molested, but not by Danny. So when she was describing the sex acts, there was no question in our minds that, in fact, these things had happened to her. But it hadn't happened by Danny. And what we found out, she actually lived in a home like Meg has described, and she was in foster care at the time. And so the cross-examination of her went something like this. Now, when you were living with your mom, she hit you. Can you tell us the kinds of things she hit you with? Would it be easier for you if I named them and then you just said yes or no? Yes. Well, that scar on your forehead is where she threw a plate. And she hit you with, and coat hangers, the wire from the, the rope from the end of the iron, the front of the iron she burned her with. She threw, the girl was just battered and bruised. And then we said, and your mom used to call you names. Yeah. Can you tell us the names? No. Would it be okay if I said the names and then you said yes or no? Yes. Did she call you a bitch? Yes. Did she call you a slut? Yes. Did she call you a whore? Yes. Did she call you a cunt? Yes. Did she call you a fucking cunt? Yes. Did she call you a fucking whore? This is a girl who had been removed from foster care at 12. And so we went through the whole thing and he said, and you really love your mom, don't you? And you want to leave foster care and go back and live with her, right? Yeah. And we went on and on and on, and you know what she wants you to say today, so you're going to say that. You want her to be proud of you, you want her to love you. She told the jury that she deserved all that. And so it was actually worked out great for my client. Basically, this girl was just pitiful. She got off the stand, and Mom came in, she had found Jesus. She had a Bible in her hand. I thought the jury wrote a note and asked why she had not been indicted. So, her testimony about Jesus did not go over too well. So with an older child, you have to say, why are they doing this? Are they mad at dad? Is it a custody case? Is it a spurned boyfriend case? Is it a, I don't want to get in trouble for saying yes case? Is it, I met him on the internet? So you have to, almost always, kids over like 13 or 14, they're lying, okay? But again, if you say to a 14-year-old girl, you're a lying little sack of shit, not going to go far. So instead, you sort of want to do something similar to Paula Crane, where at the end of the trial, in your closing argument, you're going to be able to say, ladies and gentlemen, we'll never know exactly why Diana made this up. Is she so damaged from her life that she really doesn't know what happened or didn't? Is she so desperate to get back from Mom? Blah, 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 blah. And then I said in that case, I said, you would not, the prosecutor has told you that, you will be calling Diana a liar and destroying her again if you find Danny not guilty. And I stood up and I said, you can speak for Diana as well as me, because Diana knows that what she's saying is not true. Do not make her live the rest of her life knowing she put an innocent man behind bars. Objection! I was like commenting on the sentence or something. Who cares? I never really worry about what they're saying. All right, so that's what you have to do with the older child. Okay, I think we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great second week. Email me anytime. Okay, you can ask me while I'm putting together all my stuff. Oh, good, you found the one on the floor, thank you.
Your demonstration
Or you can do it, I would do it at the competency hearing, and when you lose, you can do it at trial.
Okay. I think we could put it on the competency hearing.
What do? They have to. What state is it? Missouri. I would argue for it.
Well, I guess then my question is, if they come up with a competency hearing, is it given under Crawford? Because you've had a chance to confront and cross-examine.
Well, what you're saying is that right is meaningless if the child is not competent. So, and if you can have her deemed to be incompetent, then Crawford works, because then what do they have at the trial? Nothing. Right, that's the whole point.
Okay.
Is that you want to say, she's not competent, and therefore she can't testify, and if she can't testify, then under Crawford, we win, because
None of her other statements.
none of her other statements come in, because I don't have a right to confront and cross-examine her, because she's not competent. You know, just, you know, and I do use the analogy of a crazy person. I mean, if the person was so nuts, can you do me a favor, Ryan? Put this somewhere and put, actually, I could put my name. So that next year we'll have this.
I'll put it back with that bag with this stuff in there.
That stuff is mine.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I'm gonna do workshop, kid, props.
Okay.
Okay, and then that way, next year, we won't spend a lot of time trying to find it.
Okay.
Oh, but that's yours.
Okay.
These push pins are yours.
Yours aren't really complicated.